Hi, everybody. Welcome to Queer Stories on the Swan, a podcast where two gay men chat and discuss all things queer in the Perth LGBTQIA+ community. I'm your host, Chris.
And I'm your other host, Christo.
And in today's episode, we're talking to Nick Robertson, his life story, his journey of transitioning, and advice for younger people going through a similar journey.
So sit back and enjoy the show.
Another week, another episode. Christo, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Definitely starting to get a bit busier.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about any news? Any news that we might have?
No.
Cool.
I don't think so.
Well, I've got one thing that pertains to our podcast. So I was looking at our account the other day. I was actually looking at my account, looking at the podcast. But we, and this is over, oh God, what was it? By the time this episode comes out, it will be the 7th of March. So the 7th of March. So this is actually a couple of weeks behind. Oops, sorry.
Yeah.
But we actually got a review.
What?
We got a review on Apple Podcasts. It was a 5-star out of 5.
Yay!
Saying by the username of Archol, so ARCHOL 20. And they say, best podcast out there. This is an amazing podcast. It's a really good way to learn about other queer people's experiences. That is so nice. Thank you.
Really lovely. Oh my God.
And apparently we have another.
Thank you.
Yes. If you are listening to the show, which I hope so,
Yeah.
We also have another 5-star review. There was no comment on it, but we have 2 5-star ratings on Apple Podcasts. I haven't seen anything Spotify wise, but that's all right. That's something. Let me try and pull it up. I'll get out of the Mardi Gras playlist that I was listening to, because we can't celebrate over here in Perth, so might as well just get a bit of a party going on here.
Yeah.
What am I even looking for? Oh yeah, our podcast that we do.
You're really all over the place today, aren't you?
Yeah. We'll see how I go on the actual show, but
yeah.
With Nick. I'm just a bit in the silly mood today.
You are.
No rating, that's all right. You might have seen that we changed our logo.
Yes.
It's had a bit of a touch up.
It's so pretty.
Thank you. I was just like, you know what? I might do a little bit of redesign. The first one was fine, but I was like, yeah, it needs to be prettied up a little bit. And I think it's a little bit better.
Well, yeah.
A little bit better.
Definitely.
So yeah, that's all new stuff. God, it sounds so fascinating. But we've had more people listen to our podcast. We're getting close to 300 plays, so that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah. Of course, we just hit we did a post about it, but we hit over 100 followers on Instagram, and now we have 108. Yep. So we're doing good. A lot of people following us on Facebook, and so we're definitely making the rounds. Oh, and our Instagram handle, thanks to Christo, is a little bit more similar. There's none of those unnecessary dots, so we can just say it's Queer Stories on the Swan on Instagram and Queer Stories on the Swan on Facebook. So no dot.
I thought I'd see if it worked, and it did, and I'm like, oh good, there we go.
Yeah, it did. All right, so we have our guest about to come on. They are another trans person this time. So we've had a male to female, now we got a female to male, so we got both sides of the gender spectrum. And they've been listening to our show for a while. They're one of our top fans, so we're very, very privileged to have him on the show. So Christo, unless you have something else to add, shall we bring him on?
Let's do it.
Excellent. If you're liking the show so far, feel free to follow us on our socials at Queer Stories on the Swan at our Facebook and Instagram. Also, give us a review on whatever platform you get your podcasts, as we really appreciate the feedback. So we are joined by our guest for this week, Nick Robertson. Hello.
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 Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing very well. Very happy you could join us on the show. So we'll get the introductions out of the way. I am Chris. My pronouns are he and him.
I'm Christo and anything.
And I'm Nick, and my pronouns are he, him.
Excellent.
Nice.
All right. Nick, take us from the beginning, Dal. Shall we? We could go from your childhood. We could go from when you first started having feelings that something might be a bit different about you? Anything?
Well, yeah, okay. So when I was born in 1992, and I was born as a girl. And yeah, so like early childhood, I was pretty like it was a pretty normal childhood for me. Like didn't have any, I mean, there were like hints here and there that something was different, but like they were so small that I was able to just push them down and
Right.
just kind of ignore them.
Yeah.
And yeah, then I think I was like 24, I think. And I started thinking that maybe I wasn't into men, and I started thinking I was a lesbian. And so I came out as lesbian, and that went pretty well actually. Majority of, well, actually everyone in my life were all accepting of me. And yeah, the only like I guess negative feedback I got from that was like guys trying to like hit on me saying, oh, maybe you just haven't been with the right guy yet, kind of thing. Like, oh, did a dick do you wrong or something like that?
Well, maybe that's the reason why I became a lesbian. But
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, overall that was pretty good. And so I was like living as a lesbian for quite a few years. And then yeah, I think it was like on my 27th or 28th. It was one of them on my birthday. I went out drinking with my best friend, and I was like so drunk at this point, and I just like started crying on her shoulder, saying, I don't think I was meant to be a girl. Like I think I'm meant to be a boy." And that was like the first time that those thoughts had actually like properly come up to my like conscious mind.
yeah, wow.
Like I think back to it now, and there have been hints here and there, none that I can think of off the top of my head. I'll probably think of them after this and remember them.
That's right.
yeah.
I'll fix it in post if you remember.
Okay. But yeah, so I came out to her, and she was like 100% supportive, and she's been 100% supportive since we've become best friends of me. Like, and yeah, so then I started making I was, so my birthday was in July, and then from July until it was literally Christmas Day, where I was just like continuously like just kind of going like I guess backflipping about it, like being like, oh, maybe I am, maybe I'm not, kind of thing. And then it was like Christmas Day that I actually like realized 100% when I kind of triggered myself, because so that year I couldn't go to my family Christmas thing because I think that was when I had a cold, and my nana was still alive at that point, and but if she had got sick, that could have been the end of her. So I had to stay home. And yeah, so then I stayed home, and then like my mum and my sister went to Christmas, and then they came home, and then we were kind of all just like sitting around talking. And like I said, oh, I'm mum's favorite daughter, because like, I've got two sisters, and so we were all three born girls. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm mum's favorite daughter. And then I just kind of went quiet, and I ended up excusing myself to my room, and I just ended up crying.
Wow.
And because I realized that, I'm not her daughter, kind
That
of
didn't
thing.
feel right to say.
Yeah. And yeah, so then my mum and my sister ended up coming in, and like, were asking what was going on. They kind of thought that I was like a bit suicidal or something. Like they were a bit confused about why I was just like crying.
Yeah.
And so then I ended up telling them, and like, they were 100% supportive from the start. And then like I was like, okay, I need to tell my other sister and my dad. And so unfortunately, a few weeks after that, I think it was like the 8th of January, my nana actually ended up passing away, which was it was a relief because you know, it was just before COVID hit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we would have been like so stressed if
Yeah.
she was still alive during COVID.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, but so yeah, when on the day that she died, well, actually no, on the day that she ended up going into palliative care, I'd actually messaged my sister because she doesn't live with us,
Mhm.
and I'd messaged my sister and said, you know, when we see each other next, I have something I want to tell you, because I didn't want to like chicken out of telling her. So I figured if
Yeah.
I had told her that I needed to tell her something, then
Yeah.
she'd get it out of me.
Mhm.
And yeah, so then she saw me, I think like a few days after that, because Nana was like on her last days. And she's like, "Oh, so can you tell me?" And I was like, "I don't think this is the right time to tell you."
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then, you know, a few days later, when Nana actually died, we saw each other again. She's like, "You might as well just tell me." Like, she wasn't going to let it go. She just wanted to know. And so I was like, "Okay, I'm transgender. Like, I was meant to be a man."
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh, I had a feeling." Like, she actually had a feeling.
Mm.
And yeah, so she was 100% supportive as well.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and then my dad lives up in Broome, so I
Mhm.
don't get to see him that often.
Yep.
But he came down to Perth. It, like, this would have been on the 4th of February that I told him, because I came out to everyone else the next day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he came over because he was down in Perth. He came over for dinner, and I ended up telling him, and he was 100% supportive. Like, I've been so
Nice.
lucky
Yeah.
in, like, yeah, when I've come out.
Yeah.
And yeah, then the next day I came out to everyone on Facebook. And yeah, that was like, yeah, I got so much support on that as well. And like, I made a new Facebook. I had like over 200 friends already on my new
Wow.
Facebook. Yeah, so I've been pretty lucky.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's so
Yeah,
nice to hear, you know.
Yeah.
yeah.
So what happened? So when a get my so sorry, I was just so blown away with how sweet that was.
Yeah.
That's my excuse. I'm sticking to it. So regarding the actual process of, you know, transitioning, talk us through that. What was that like?
Okay, so it was I guess it was a bit different to what it would usually be, because I was doing it during COVID.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I started seeing a psychologist, and I saw her twice before she like officially diagnosed me with gender dysphoria, which is the medical condition that
Yep.
you get diagnosed with. And so yeah, she just basically talked about my childhood and about my feelings, and like, you know, why I wanted to transition and all that. And yeah, so she ended up diagnosing me with gender dysphoria.
Mhm.
Yep.
And then
Sorry, just 1 second. Just
Yeah.
so there are people who are listening who may not know what that is. Can you just
Yep.
kind of like define that for us? Gender dysphoria.
It's basically just feeling unattached from the gender you were assigned at birth.
Right.
So
Okay.
I was born female, and I was identifying as a woman for like so many years.
Mm.
But then I've started realizing that I'm actually meant to be a man.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
so, and then I started feeling like I wasn't meant to be in this body.
Mhm.
I was like binding my chest, and I was trying to speak in a more deeper masculine voice before I started testosterone
Mhm.
Yeah.
and all that. So yeah, I just felt like I didn't belong in my body.
Mhm.
And yeah, so then I went and saw an endocrinologist,
Mhm.
which is the hormone specialist.
Mhm.
And he ended up sending me away for tests. He got my bloods tested to like test my hormone levels already.
Yeah.
And then he also had me screen for breast cancer and uterus cancer.
Mhm.
And you know, both of them came back clean. And so then and like my bloods came back clean and everything. And so I went back and saw him again, and he wrote me up a script for testosterone.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, when I first started taking testosterone, it was 1 shot every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting 1 shot every 3 months. So it's pretty
wow.
good.
Right.
Yeah. And so, yeah, like I saw my endocrinologist the first time in October in 2020.
Mhm.
And then I started testosterone in November 2020.
Right.
So yeah, I've been over a year on testosterone now, which is good.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And-
then the Tuesday okay, so hang on. Then I ended up January last year, I
Mhm.
made the appointment to see a surgeon to
Yep.
remove my breasts.
Mhm.
Yep.
And yeah, so I called up his office in January. The first appointment was made for August, but then
Yep.
they were able to push me forward to be like 31st of July.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then so that was I went in on the 31st of July for that appointment, and then he literally booked me in for the first available appointment, which was the 1st of March this year.
A few
Oh,
days ago.
wow.
So it was
Yeah.
it was a long wait.
Yeah.
And yeah, from what I've heard, it's actually a longer wait now.
Wow.
Yes,
Yeah, like
actually, I've got a
people-
friend. I've got a friend who's trans who's still, well, barely on male to female. So hormone blockers only just started, and it can be a long
okay,
wait for and
Yeah.
surgeries and yeah. So, but that sounds really good, Nick. So anyway, so you were talking about it.
Yeah. So I just got surgery last Tuesday.
Yes.
Yeah,
And yeah, so I've got a few weeks off work now, which is good.
Yeah.
excellent.
How
So
you
that was top
feeling?
surgery.
Sorry.
Sorry, that was top surgery.
Yeah, top
Yeah.
surgery.
Wonderful,
so-
and that's like one of the
Hey.
big major
Yeah.
ones, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So they I had to get double incision,
Mm.
which is the one for the larger breasts.
Yep.
And yeah, so they had to like slice under my pectoral muscles and then
Mhm.
cut my nipples off as well.
Right.
And yeah, then and they sew it back together somehow and then put my nipples back on.
Wow.
So yeah.
Make it sound so simple, but I'm sure it's not.
But not really.
Well, yeah, I was under for like a few hours.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you would hope so.
Yeah.
You seem pretty good. Like you seem like you've recovered really well.
Yes. I was about to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. So
Just
I
great.
thought that like Christo, when I messaged you about being on the show, I was like, yeah, I
Yeah.
probably can't be on the show until like at least a week after surgery.
Yeah.
But
course.
then yeah, I was doing really well actually. So
That's wonderful. That's so nice to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why is my mind doing a blank thing? Christo, do you have something to add? Help me here.
No, not really. But yeah, it's just it blows my mind that like this has happened. It's
Oh,
like,
that's so
my God.
good. That's so good. So
I'm so proud.
yes, very, very proud. Well done, Nick. So are you still, do you have like another, because I know there's like a bottom surgery, right? Is that still up and coming? You have to book that?
I'm not entirely sure if I'm gonna like what I'm gonna do with that. Like I know I want to get a hysterectomy, which is the removal of the female reproductive organs.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if I want to go through with getting bottom surgery just because it's so expensive and it's a
course.
much bigger surgery than top surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, also like one thing I didn't say is that since I've been on hormones, I've actually realized that I'm more bisexual than straight.
Oh wow.
So yeah, and like I lean more towards men now as well. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm probably more of a bottom than I am a top. So I also am like kind of like you know, I mean it would be nice to have, you know, a dick, but I don't need one.
Yeah.
So but yeah.
Oh no, Chris has lost it.
That
Look out.
sounded, I'm sorry, that sounded like a wink wink. It's like, hey, someone give me a penis. Sorry. It's just the way you said that. That was really funny.
Oh.
Sorry, but
No, it's okay.
that's really. Sorry, my caffeine. That's the new word. Caffeine hasn't kicked in yet.
Wow.
Caffeine.
What is up with you today, Chris?
I don't know. I've been busy. I'm a little bit silly today, but that's really, really cool. So Nick, what about your experiences in the queer community? So you're living as a lesbian for a while before the trans thing came up. Was there, like, were you involved much in the community? Did you go out to like connections to the core? Have you been involved with social groups?
Not really. I mean, my best friend, she's lesbian, and we met through one of the lesbian Facebook groups when I was identifying as a lesbian.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like she's really the only, like I've been to the court a few times and connections and that, but like I've not really been massively into the queer community.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
well, here's another step into the community here on the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, since coming out as trans, there is a like it's an LGBT like community group, but it's like it's more like it's trans. There's more trans women in it than anyone else.
Right.
And yeah, there's like a couple of us trans guys in there as well, and then just a couple like queer people. But yeah, so like that's been the only like I guess like queer socialization I've done.
Right.
Really.
No, that's really cool. Have you gone to Pride? Have you been involved with queer events before, or?
I keep wanting to go to Pride, but then every year it's on, there's something else on. Like I know that 2020 I didn't want to go because I was like worried about COVID.
Oh, it wasn't on anyway. It was cancelled.
Oh, was it? Yeah. Oh, okay, maybe there. And last year I wanted to go, but like I'm part of an amateur acting club, which is where I met Christo through.
Cool.
Yeah, and we had an event on that night, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I couldn't go to it last year. But
very nice. Yes, I am also an actor. It's it's fun stuff, but it's so how time consuming is it? Is it more of like a theater thing or more of a
It's a social group that's also into acting.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Might have to do that because I don't really have time for a theater show these days. You know, I've got a lot of commitments now. I've got this pod, I've got lots of radio shows I'm doing at the same time, and then TAFE, so I don't really have the time. So maybe I'll consider that. What's it called?
Jome Club of Performing Arts.
Sorry, say that again. Nick. Sorry.
Jome Club of Performing Arts.
Jome Club of Performing Arts. Okay, I'll remember that.
Yeah.
Future Chris editing. Remember that.
Yeah, you're a great group.
No, excellent. That's really cool. So, do you have anything to add, Christo? I've got one question, but I don't want to take over the whole show. Nope.
No.
Okay. So, Nick, do you have any advice for people who, I suppose like start up as a lesbian and then they have to go through transitioning and just kind of discovering that sexuality and, more about themselves? Like, do you have any advice for people who, but I guess for young trans people, really, I think that's the main thing I'm wondering about.
Yeah. Just take your time. Like, there's no like set time you have to be at any point in your life. But at the same time, like, no, I won't say that. I was gonna say at the same time, like, also try and be quick because like there are long waiting lists, but at the same time, like, they shouldn't rush into any.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I won't say that. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, just take your time, and yeah, just discover yourself in your own time. The people who matter will accept you, and the people who don't matter, like, it doesn't matter about them, like, kind of thing. So yeah.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that. So there was nothing that like negatively happened apart from the men that was like, oh, you're coming from the right guy, because what three men.
Well, I mean, I haven't told one of my uncles because he's very Christian homophobic.
Yep.
Like there was like once before I even thought I was a lesbian, we had a heated discussion on one of my Facebook statuses because he was essentially yeah, he was essentially saying that being gay is like being a pedophile and
great
into bestiality and all that. Like,
I don't want anything to do with children.
No.
No. Interacting them with bad enough.
My little sister's enough for a handful.
Yeah, and unfortunately that is very much a comparison that's still being made today.
Which doesn't make sense.
No, because people will listen to the people in power.
Yeah,
look at the religious discrimination bill that was just shelved. Let's not say defeated; it was shelved, but and that's still very much a real issue these days. And that's why we keep fighting. That's why we keep standing together. And we have more of this. Like, we should have more of like Nick's story of how it was completely supportive by their family. But no, it's wonderful stuff. So, do you have anything to add, Nick or Christo?
Nope.
No, I don't think so.
We're all good. Excellent. So Nick, thank you so much for joining us on the show today and taking time out of your very busy schedule. Hope you're, I know you say like you're recovering pretty well, but I'm sure you've still got some recovery to do. So enjoy that.
Yeah. Thank you. And thanks for having me.
That's all right. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to Queer Stories on the Swan. You can leave a review for us wherever you get your podcast.
And you can find us on our socials on Facebook and Instagram.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Christo.
And stay fabulous.